draining for fuel.
So what's also nice about the Grumman is that you have this open engine compartment. So you can really get in there and make sure everything...
What are you checking for now?
Whatever looks out of spec.
Occasional pigeon or anything else?
Yes, absolutely. Make sure there's no birds building nests. That is a problem, especially if the plane's left outside. Bird builds a nest besides the bird itself. It's hay. It could catch fire. And it happens. Or it could clog control surfaces and do it just at the wrong time.
Miserable. How many horsepower in this engine?
180. 180, brand new, under factory conditions. So you always hear this stuff, and you have to be careful when you look at the specs for these planes, especially when it comes to takeoff distance and assuming things. So a lot of the specs are based on a brand new plane, flown by an experienced person, under ideal conditions. So if you do things, you look at the specs and say, okay, under other conditions, what's it going to be derated to? It also depends on the propeller too. The propellers, I didn't know this, but the propellers can actually, the pitch can be, these are fixed pitch propellers, but they can actually be twisted in a fixture.
Is that feathering? Is that what they call it?
No, this doesn't get feathered. This thing's a hunk of metal, but you can change the pitch. They can do up to 6 times over the life of the propeller. They actually put in a jig and bend the thing to change the pitch for different levels of performance at different areas of the flight envelope.
Huh.
So you can make it into a climb propeller or a cruise propeller.
Are you going to bleed the other fuel tanks as well?
Yes. So you basically go around it a clockwise. So you check the oil first. Ports, the attitude indicator in the heading. John's got a couple of modifications here, which supposedly adds some performance. He's got a special, like a freer flow exhaust system, which I'm not sure is worth the money. He keeps on claiming that it does. And they always talk how many extra little knots, speed you get. So you're going 130 knots, can you get a couple of more knots out of it? How much do you want to spend per knot? Good. Check for any visible oil. Anything that seems to be loose. I was on a trip one time, on a business trip. I took it to Trenton. And getting ready to come home, I was pre-flighting it on the other side. One of these screws wasn't there anymore. So that's weird. So I went to the local mechanic, and they sold me a screw for a couple of bucks to stick it in there. But it was there when I took off, so you always pre-flight it. Even if you've just done it right before.
And this is just to make sure there's no water in the fuel, correct?
No, it's a bunch of things. You're checking for contamination, you're checking for water, because water is heavier than gas and will fall down to the bottom and form little balls. But also, it's blue. So you make sure it's blue. Because 100 low lead is blue.
Oh, I see.
And what you read little tricks. One trick is to make sure you put up against something white so you see that it's blue. So for example, if you put up against the sky, well the sky's blue too, there was one guy that had an accident because there's water, so much water in the fuel, it was all water. But he held it up to the blue sky. Hey, it looks blue. And didn't realize that everything in the tank was water. There was a leak in the fuel tank, the fuel cap. So you also look in to make sure that you've got fuel. These tanks can hold 25 gallons aside, but because fuel is also weight, they have these metal tabs that if you fill the tank to the tab, it's only 19 per side. And usually that's good enough for about 3 hours and 45 minutes of endurance. So you can carry more people, more baggage if you want to load it up. So you can make the decision as to whether you're going for endurance, range, lifting, or payload. So